All right, let's address the elephant in the room here. Look, I thought it was going to be as simple as the video. I dropped my preview. The fight happens. I drop my review about the fight, and I'm talking about Tank Davis and Lamont Roach, and then that was it. But usually I don't really pay too much attention to the aftermath. I mean, I do, but a lot of the time, the people on the internet, the channels on the internet, and I'm glad Lamont Roach called them out by name. There's no need for me to do it. I think that I just don't need to go ahead and do that because we know who they are, right? Saying that, those people, they have such terrible takes and all they do is just, D-Ride and all that. We all know that. We know who we're talking about. If you don't know who I'm talking about, go watch the Lamont Roach post-fight press conference or, interview, whatever. And he calls them all out by name. But people, they give such bad takes. And this was not surprise. It was not surprisingly another batch of bad takes going around. Now, what everybody seems to have a problem with is the results and the outcome being that they're like, I've heard people saying Lamont Roach got robbed, but in the same breath, I'm hearing people say he didn't do enough, right? In the same breath, I'm hearing people say he didn't do enough. So for me, I'm like, all right, well, which one is it, first of all? And secondly, I've heard people trying to defend the knockdown, like, the fact that he took a knee wasn't a knockdown. I had to comment on somebody's page, like, Floyd's first knockdown, there was not even a punch landed. He took a knee because he hurt his hand. Matter of fact, he was the aggressor, hurt his hand. He took a knee. They called it a knockdown because if anything other than the bottom of your feet touches the canvas, it's a knockdown. That's just the way it goes. And then people were trying to say screenshot and produce misinformation saying Lamont Roach also took a knee. Mind you, Tank leaned on his back. Again, bro, you can't trust the internet. You can't trust half these niggas because half of these grown men are so deep in their feelings about this fight and about this other grown man to being Tank Davis for some reason. They can't just be 100. You know what I mean? So look, here's the punch stats for this fight. Now, one person who really was like, there was just such a lack of effort. It was such a lack of effort. He was very critical of Tank Davis because, everybody understands that Tank is an elite fighter, or at least he was regarded as such. To me, he never proved himself to be elite because all of the elite talent that was waiting for him never got the call. But, there was a bunch of cherry picking and moving around going on Tank Davis's part. And then for me, I always believed that he was limited because, again, what we saw in the fight was that when one of his three options couldn't land or put Lamont Davis to sleep, he ran out of options. But Champ side, he was like, hey, Lamont Roach, his effort, or matter of fact, Tank Davis's effort was not respectable. He only landed one punch in the first round. He threw underneath his average of like 32 or 34 punches around all fight long up until round 11, right? Both of these guys were just posturing. He was like, it was boring. And he was like, how can y'all Tank Davis fans talk crazy about Shakur Stevenson's fights, but your favorite fighter didn't show up? And he was basically saying that because of how we regard Tank Davis, this is an underperformance. My thing is this. I don't think that it was an underperformance. I think that the stylistic matchup limited and hindered Tank Davis from being able to get into his bag because he's always been a slow starter. He's always been a low output, highly accurate dude. He does throw around 30 punches around, but that's because he's not going to throw unless there's openings to that permit him to throw. Those openings come from him at starting slow in the beginning of the fight, applying pressure, feints, seeing what people react to, and then towards the middle of the fight before he stops it, when they're reacting to the feints or walking him down and he starts counterpunching, he's able to execute his game plan. In the training camp, he was going hard. You know what I mean? He prepared for this fight. You could tell he was in shape. He was explosive when he threw his punches. He didn't look like he got tired at all. It looked like there's a high level of concentration and understanding of the styles. But the thing about what Lamont Roach had done, and this was another thing that I didn't agree with his take, was that Lamont Roach, he didn't say he wasn't deserving of any praise, but he said that Lamont Roach is not a great fighter. He didn't have a great performance, I should say, and he's not a great fighter because, Jamel Herring gave him his first loss. And I understand what he was doing with the triangle theory. It was really holding a mirror to Tank fans in that live, where he was like, "Look, y'all love triangle theory and love saying, oh well, Devin fought Ryan and lost, even though he cheated, right? Devin fought Ryan and lost, so Tank doesn't need to fight Devin because Tank beat Ryan, which is stupid. Triangle theory almost never holds up. It almost never holds up in abstract spaces like this, right? But so I understand what he was doing, but there were some things that he really did double down on that I was just like, yeah. And one of those things was the effort and him bringing up the CompuBox punch stats. So now I'm here to look at the punch stats because numbers without context never tells the full story, right? So we're going to go over this quickly. Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach punch stats. First round, Davis landed 1, Lamont Roach landed 3. Davis landed 3 in the second round and Lamont Roach landed 4. Davis landed 8 in the third round. Lamont Roach landed 7. Davis landed 5 in the fourth round. Roach landed 5 as well. Davis landed 8 in the fifth round. Lamont Roach landed 7. And mind you, Lamont Roach's punch output was higher through almost all the rounds. But that makes sense, right? A lot of people throw a lot of punches at Tank Davis, and he doesn't throw very many punches back because he's waiting on that perfect shot. Davis threw 11 in the sixth, or landed 11 in the sixth round. And he starts landing around 40%, which is about his. I mean, that's about what he lands. He's one of the most accurate punchers in the sport. Lamont Roach, he landed 5 in round 6. Davis, he lands 12 in round 7. Lamont Roach lands 16 in round 7. Davis lands 7 in round 8. Lamont Roach lands 9 in round 8. Davis lands 13 in round 9. Lamont Roach lands 13 in round 9. Davis lands 9 in round 10. Lamont Roach lands 10 in round 10. Davis lands 17 in round 11. Lamont Roach lands 17 in round 11. Davis lands 9 in round 12. Lamont Roach lands 16 in round 12. Dang, at a 42% clip. Round 12 was his highest accuracy round. And that has to do with when you're watching the fight. He was doing a lot of counter punching that round. I feel like he let there weren't very many jabs thrown in this fight, and that was something that people also were critical of Gervonta Davis of. Bro, you landed 0 in round 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. But again, if you watch the fight and the type of pressure that was being applied, both guys were posturing with their hands up, getting their angles. They weren't really snapping out jabs like that. Like Lamont Roach, I can count so many times where he was just touching Davis's guard, trying to feint and bait that counter punch, and then sometimes it came, sometimes it didn't come. Sometimes he got him to bite on the feint and break his posture, and then after that he was able to get on top of him and let his hands go. Sometimes he didn't. You know what I mean? Sometimes he didn't. And then neither guy really landed too many power punches throughout the fight. Most of their punches landed were power punches. Neither guy really landed too many power punches per round either, which is why nobody got knocked out. Right, but Tank Davis, he lands at a high clip pretty much all the time, right? But the thing is, the story of the fight was this. Stylistically, the way Lamont Roach fought him, he fought strong, he fought big, and the way that he presented himself in the middle of the ring, and the way that he picked Gervonta Davis's punches, and even when he threw that powerful straight left hand, he picked it, got off the line, and he was also countering back. That stuff is the stuff that would understandably make Gervonta Davis a little gun shy throughout the fight, because they're both looking to counter each other. That was literally the stylistic matchup. If you put two counter punches in front of each other, it's going to be a game of chicken. You're not going to get a high octane fight, right? And not to harp on the champ side too much, but he has really good takes for the most part, which is the reason why I'm even talking about him now, because a lot of people don't have the best takes, bro. I'll be honest. But he was talking about how the Gary Russell Jr. fight was so good because, he threw over 900 punches that fight at Rayo, but Rayo will go tit for tat with you. You know what I mean? Rayo doesn't tie up like that. Rayo is, Mexican fighters, they want to bang it out. So Gary Russell Jr. is one of the most prolific punchers in the sport. He was 17 for 17 knockouts wise. He didn't get the stoppage, so now he's 18 wins, 17 knockouts. But he had to establish himself that way in that fight because of the style. Rayo has a lot of chin, and he has punching power, and he'll catch you with some big shots. And he did. He landed overhand rights. You know what I mean? He landed overhand lefts. He was throwing stiff straight punches. That's what Ryo does. You know what I mean? That's what he does very well. That's how he's able to knock out or you know, yeah, he just because he knocked out Chris Colbert. That's how he was able to get respect from Esau Cruz. That's how he was, because he has that punching power. You know what I mean? He lost to Edwin De Los Santos, but Edwin De Los Santos has a lot of punching power. You know what I mean? He's very explosive, very athletic, very dangerous. But Gary Anton Russell is a different type of guy. He lets his hands go at a high clip. That's just his style. He's a puncher. That's why his knockout ratio is so high. He gets TKOs and he gets KOs because he lets his hands go. You try a throw, he hits you with a big shot, and then next thing you know, you're down, you're stopped, whatever. You know what I mean? He stops people. That's what he does. Tank Davis has always been the patient guy who has that one punch knockout power, and it shows in these stats. And it also shows in the fight and how they were posturing and both guys trying to execute their game plan. So look, do I think it was a robbery? The draw, yeah, because the knockdown wasn't called correctly. But as far as these punch stats goes, was there a lack of effort from each guy? No, I don't think so, because the stats without the context don't tell the full story. When I watched this fight so many times, like I do any other fight afterwards, and again, the way that they were trying to position themselves so they could land something meaningful, because both guys didn't want to waste any punches. Why would you throw more punches at a Tank Davis when, if you do that, you're going to end up like Rolly Romero, you're going to end up like Leo Santa Cruz? There's blueprints to all of this showing that if you do try to throw, you have to outposition the counter puncher, because you need to make sure that he can't catch you out of position. He can't catch you. If he catches you out of position, you're going to get knocked out, because you won't see that motherfucker coming. All of the work Lamont Roach did to keep Tank right in front of him was half the fight. That was the biggest, most important part of the game plan, was keep your work right in front of you. You could tell because of how he was positioning himself, the distance he kept himself at, the way he was trying to feint and touch at Gervonta Tank Davis's guard, make him second guess when to throw that big shot. You know what I mean? And then eventually Gervonta Davis tries to take the lead, but he's not able to land what he needs to get the knockout, which is what he was banking on, right? If you look at the fight, he's like, watch, I'm gonna knock you out, watch. In the middle of the fight, after one of the rounds was over with, and Lamont Roach said himself, if he wants to knock me out, catch me out of position, he's gonna have a long night. So it is what it is. We got the fight we got. I enjoyed the fight because I'm watching it from a perspective of somebody who understands the game, and I'm looking at it like, okay, I see this guy's game plan. I see how he's trying to be, not only, you don't only want to counter someone's game plan, but you need to establish yourself too. So Lamont Roach was able to do that on both sides, defense and offense. He was able to counter the counter puncher. He ate his best shots, and he's able to establish himself. I thought from a ring generalship standpoint, defense standpoint, and the meaningful punches that he did land, you know what I mean? Working the body, landed those uppercuts, those straight right hands, the hooks when he was following Tank on the exit. He's keeping his work in front of him. I thought he did enough to win, but the knockdown not being called ultimately was where the draws come from. Basically, because the points got to come from somewhere. So if they call the knockdown correctly, he wins the fight unanimously. That's what's sad about this fight, you know? So, you know, I understand people are saying a bunch of weird stuff about the fight, but from a scientific, from the boxing, from the game itself, if you break it down and you watch the fight, it makes complete sense how we get to where we at, punch stats aside. I don't think that the punch stats don't show a lack of effort when you're watching the fight and you see the level of concentration and you see both guys stylistically not able to get to their spots and get their stuff off. It was really, you could cut the tension with a knife. You could hear it in the commentary. You could see it in the corners. Both guys were really both corners were trying to really figure out a game plan that was going to work. And neither guy could, because if they could, then they would have imposed themselves a little bit more. But both guys were getting checked at the door, and they were just able to kind of push it a little bit more one way or the other. See what I'm saying? So y'all leave your thoughts on this fight. Do you think it was a robbery, or do you think it was justified? Do you think that the knee was a knockdown or not? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments, bro. I'm gone.